Welcome to video 5 in the SkyMaster A10 spa treatment and refinishing. We got lots to accomplish in this video. I believe we're going to wrap everything up in this last video, video 5. So we got lots to do, so let's dive back in. Last video we finished with getting our second landing gear serviced. That's all good. We printed some clips or cover plates here for our air stuff that we removed. And we also pulled 2 of the air tanks out, so we're only going to have 2 in this aircraft, and we're going to simplify the air system a little bit. So previously we had all of our fill valves and gauges and stuff right here. We're just going to have 1 fill valve on the front. Reason for that is at the beginning of the day you fill up your air system. After that the compressor basically takes care of everything. So you only need the 1 fill valve right there, and it kind of handles everything. Other thing with telemetry is we don't really need gauges. Gauges are just another failure point. So we've got the telemetry from the Chicoe sequencer going to the radio. That gives us our air pressure on the radio as well too. So no reason to overcomplicate stuff. So we did pull a bunch of air stuff out of the back end. We do have to get our air stuff kind of sorted out, but that comes with the territory here. We do need to add our additional belly light. So I wanted to make sure we kind of cleaned up our air tank area to make sure that we had room to install our belly light. Now things are a bit messy in here right now and disorganized. I think that'll all come together as we start putting equipment back in. Really need to get the equipment and stuff all sorted before we work on canopy glass. So I need to get that stuff figured out. But let's take a look at this air system and simplifying things. All right, so we can get the tail section reinstalled now that we're done back here. So obviously we're making sure we Loctite everything. Our Ashlock connectors are all still the same, so nothing's really changed as far as the plugs go on the tail. Primary reason I'm putting the tail on now is because I had to adjust the stand a little bit on the front end, and I need some weight back here. So transportation wise too, the tail of the A10 comes off quite easily. So if you are wanting to lighten it up a little bit or make it more narrow, you can also remove the tail during transport. And then now with the back end on, our balance is a little bit better. Now the stand we'll be building for this, it's totally fine to leave the tail on. It's just the width. So if you're struggling with fitting this plane somewhere where the width is an issue, then taking the tail off makes it a heck of a lot narrower. The engine pods really aren't that wide compared to the tail. So. All right, so we got our belly light installed right in front of the air tray there, so that's all done. Quite straightforward to install the light. This style of Unilight, you actually just make the hole for it and the lens bolts or screws into the aluminum housing, so that's all done. And we've cleaned up our air system as well too. Now it's quite a mess in there still, but the air system now, we've got the 2 air tanks in the belly of the aircraft. Those come to supply air to our air valves, and also they go forward to our compressor. Now our compressor, we're reusing the line that was in there before. So we've got a piece of Teflon line, a one-way valve, a piece of 4mm Festo line, a 4 to 3 reducer, and then that ties into our air system. And then we've also got a T right there that goes forward to the front tray, and that's going to be our air fill valve now on the front tray. So air system is now cleaned up and good to go. With the tail installed, we're undoing the leads coming to the engines, and we are going to install our pods again and our engines again. All right, engine pods are back installed. Pretty straightforward when everything's marked and already put together once before. So we got our fan installed first, put our pod onto the fuselage, 2 bolts secure the pod to the fuselage, and we've got our fuel line and turbine line. So next thing to do is we got to get our exhaust pipes installed, and then our turbines go in last. All right, engine pods are installed, engines are in, we're back to where we were, covers are closed. As we move forward, we're just taking care of things. So tray is back installed. We've got our screws screwed down. Now we will be probably putting some new filler lines on this eventually, but right now we don't have the Jersey Modeler dry brake fillers, so we're just going to leave it as the fuel dots for right now. And as we move forward, the next thing to do is our top strobe. So as a first step, we're going to cut this guy off. The kit for the A10 comes with two different options. So we've got a big round circle option, which we used on the last one, and then we have kind of a combination option as well too. So here's the big one that comes with this light, and that would fit over top. This is kind of what we used last time. And then there's this option here too, which is a little bit more streamlined version. So that fits right over the LED. And then if you want to make it look more scale, you put this little extender piece on there, which would also light up as well too. So I'm going to try and keep it as minimal as possible and maybe use this guy, but ultimately we can also use that one as well too. With these strobes, it's important to use the heat sinks that come with it. If you don't, you run the risk of burning out the light. So on this particular light here, we may use a combination of this and the fins. That goes on the underside, or we may just use this guy. We'll see how everything fits. All right, so moving forward, we need to get our wing wires completed inside the fuselage. So we've got two sets of splitters here that I made up. So we've got our first one. So this plugs into our lighting controller, goes back to the wings, and then splits off. So one to one side, one to the other side. So we'll have our white lights go through this one, or the beacons, and we'll have our colored lights, our marker lights, going through this one. So those are all made with the Unilite wires. So now we'll do our connectors on this end. So we're going to go with an ash lock setup, just like what's on there right now. So this is a 12-pin connector. There's no space in the 12-pin connector because it's full. So we're going to add a 6-pin connector on both sides. We only need 4 pins, but the 6-pin is the smallest option, obviously, that we can use. So we'll get all that stuff done up and ready to plug in or run through the fuselage. All right, top light is finalized, glued in place. We used a little bit of CA to tack it from the underside. Did a little bit of E6000 around there and then glued the lens on with E6000. So that's doing its thing and curing. Also ran our vent line from the tanks. So those come to a T-fitting and then go down to our new vent fitting from Flight Composite Tech on the underside. So that's done. Simplified a little bit of our wiring in the front end. So took the wire out that we had specifically for the compressor. So now our compressor is going to be tied into the system. And getting our light controller ready. Now our light controller is going to go on the wall on that right hand side. There's going to be lots of lead length to be able to plug everything in there. And our lighting controller needs to plug in, number 1, to a servo plug on the board, and number 2, to our SBEC outputs or our BEC outputs on the Central Box 400. So the Central Box 400, the way that works is we have a 3-cell battery going in, and that's regulated down to 8.4 volts. So all the servos are getting 8.4 volts all the time, and these BEC outputs are also getting 8.4 volts. So got our lighting controller done up here, put the leads together for the power to an extension lead with an MPX connector, and this will plug right into the Central Box 400. This is our lead for the control. So this is ready to install into the aircraft. Also got our wiring run for the wings. So those leads are made up with the ash lock connector here, and then they're run forward to this bundle right there. All right, so we need to program our compressor, our V-Speak compressor. Easiest way to do that is with a Jetty box. You can do it through the radio, the Jetty radio. It's a little hard to find sometimes, depending on how it's plugged in. So we've got our compressor plugged in. Now the compressor's not getting any power. This is just controlling the brains of the compressor. So now this will pull up the device, and you can see here compressor off at 8 bar and compressor on at 6.5 bar. So generally we will run this at 6.8 to 6.9 bar, which ends up being about 100 PSI. So we want to go, we'll go a little bit higher on the A10 because she needs a little bit of help on the main landing gear. So we'll go 7 bar on the off, and the on will turn on at 5.9 bar. So usually we do that at 5.8. Maybe we'll bump that up to 6. So go 6 and 7 on the compressor. On max, I like to set that to about 80 or 90 seconds. So this is how long it'll run for. And that's basically it. So super easy to program. If we go over, we can calibrate it, and that's the screens. So super simple, and now this compressor is programmed and good to go. And if we want to check it, we can also plug it back in, and this just confirms that all of our settings were saved. So again, it's going to pull the device up, 7 bar, 6 bar, perfect. All right, and before we mount the controller into the aircraft, I always like to snap a picture of the backside here just so we have our layout. Now the reason for the layout is we just use the standard setups on the controller. So I don't really like going in and trying to program this thing. It's pretty complicated. So if you just use the travel on your servo channel, that makes programming this very simple. So we do have our wing lights paired up. So our wing white beacon is paired up, and our wing red and green lights, marker lights, are paired up as well too. So we'll be just using like nav right, nav left. We'll just use one of those. Strobe right, strobe left, we'll use one of those. But then we've got beacon bottom, beacon top, and we also have beacon rear. So I'll use one of these strobes on the back light as well. Landing lights, that goes in 7 and 8. So I like to have this because when this is installed like that, you don't really know what those ports are pre-programmed to do. And ones like the landing lights, they're solid on, they're not blinking. The beacon lights are all blinking. The navigation left and right, those are your marker lights, like your green and your red lights. So those stay solid generally as well. So now I know what each of those ports does. So yes, still a disaster, but we got all of our wires run through the board again, and they're all plugged into the central box where they need to go. So the board is essentially ready to be installed, but we've got to get our front gear ready to go in first. So the front gear, we need to run our light on the front gear, run that light backwards underneath the board, and all of our turbine stuff is in place. We've got our air lines for our front gear right down there, so we'll need to hook those up. So we'll hold off on the board for now, but we're gonna get the front gear ready to go back in. All right, small tiny steps. We got the nose wheel in, big step actually. That's all done, nose doors all hooked up and everything, and we've got it taped closed so it doesn't drop down. We don't have the radio to play with this, so if it drops down and locks, it's a real pain to get it back up. So nose is installed. Now we can run our lead back to our Unilight controller underneath the board for the nose light. And once that's run back, we can now bolt that plate back in place. All right, so I can't remember where we left off in the last clip, but our board's installed. All of our EXT plugs are run to the front here. So these are all of our plugs for binding and programming and everything. So we got a whole bunch in this plane. They're all run to the front. And we're doing the battery setup a little bit different. So I want to make this plate in the front here removable. So we've got our plugs for all the power items here. We're reusing the front tray, and we're doing our standard XT holders. These are available on our website as well too. There's a bunch of different colors and stuff on there, different styles. And then we've got the plugs here that will just plug into those other ends. So this will be a nice quick release system. And the point to that is there's a bunch of weight in the nose right now, so we may take some of that weight out. We may add more depending on CG, but that'll make things a little bit easier. So this is a big step. So now we can get this guy installed in the aircraft, and that means that we can get this installed as well. Yeah, and the only other thing we need to run is our air fill right here, which is going to go on, I think this tray right there is the plan. Yes, it's going to go like right in that hole right there. So we'll get that done, and then we're ready to install this guy. All right, so we've got both of our lights just kind of tacked in place. Just use CA to tack that in place. And we'll take some goop now, and we'll put some goop around each of the lights. And then we will, as that goop kind of settles out, it's going to glue the lens down in place. And then we'll just tack glue the lens in place as well too, with just a drop of CA front and back. But the goop is going to be the primary holder for those lenses. So let's get that solved. So the wing right now is just resting on the root of the wing up against a table. So that's how we have this thing vertical right now. So we'll just take a little bit of, this is goop, household goop. We'll drop it right in the middle. Spin this around each of the lights. And as this stuff flows, it's going to flow down beside those lights. Now, if you need something to flow a little bit better, E6000 works really well for that because it's more runny. And now we'll put a little bit more in that's going to go up against the lens that we're going to glue on. And that will end up holding everything in place. So now I'm just going to take our lens, I'm going to put a drop of thick CA on the front and the back, get this installed and lined up. A little shot of kicker. And that is awesome. Now while this goop is still wet, we can take it and level it out. And that'll just make our cleanup easier later on. Perfect. So now that lens is stuck down with the CA, and that is perfection. So now when that's cured, the lens will be stuck in place. If we ever need to get this lens off, you'll be able to peel it off. But that is wonderful. I like that the lights are separated by that little intermittent piece right there, and that should be awesome. All right, so got the gear back on the leg. The gear going back in is pretty simple because it's all clean. Previously, this gear was disgusting because we had oil leaking everywhere and it was just filthy. So with this gear all cleaned up, it's much better to go in. Now, you got to remember the gear does lock in the up or down, sorry, the extended position. So when we're putting this back together, one of the things that's easiest to do is just unbolt your cylinder. Now, unbolting that cylinder was one of the key things to do anyways, because we need to put this guy back in place on that cylinder anyways. So that does need to happen, but this allows us to check the movement of everything, how everything lines up, and everything is looking very nice. So that is good. We've got all of our lines run everywhere. We've got our lower fairing or fin piece on, and then now we're going to put our other piece on. So once that's done, we to get our gear back up, we can pinch the gear off on the wings and do the same thing we did previously in one of the previous videos. That'll unlock it. When we're putting our screws back in for the gear here, we're making sure we put some CA on there so they're locked in place. So once we get this gear all installed, then we'll put our pylons back on, and this wing is going to be complete. Now we've got our lighting plug here, so that's the exact opposite of what we put on the fuselage. So that's a 6-pin ash lock connector with 4 wires going into it. So didn't really change our wing connection very much, just added one more little connector there. All right, so second wing is now complete. The wings have been quite the process. But one of the things I like to see as we get closer to the end of a project is our benches getting cleaned off, which is very nice. So last one over here, we've got a few parts left for the cockpit, and it's time to do our last step, which is canopy stuff. Now we're going to leave the pilot out, the dash panel out, until we get the opportunity to get the setup and everything done on the owner's radio and do all of our checks and everything at the field. So we won't be able to do our CG check on this plane because we don't have the owner's radio, can't really drop the gear that easy, so better just to do that at the field. I've got all the numbers pre-programmed in my Chicoy scales that we've used on all the A10s we've done so far, and that CG location turns out awesome. So we'll save that. So our last thing to do in preparation for this being completed is our canopy glass. So obviously our front canopy portion is in place. Right now our back actual opening and closing canopy is in place. And we've taken our replacement glass, which I think has the liner on the inside and the outside, which is kind of nice at this stage because it keeps it from getting really scratched and destroyed. And we've just set that in place. So when you're doing canopies like this, it's always good to go a little bit big and then shrink it down. Now, because this is sitting on the outside of the frame, it will naturally be too big anyways. So if we draw our dash line right here as an example, we'll probably have to cut another 1/4 inch off once it's on the inside of the canopy. Now I'll take you guys through this process, but one of the really critical things when you're doing canopy glass, doesn't matter which plane it is we're gonna get these cut and shaped and ready to install. We're gonna get them in place with magnets. We are going to use probably canopy glue, I can't remember what it is, but Zap canopy glue, I think is what it's called. And you want to leave the canopies to cure in place. That's very important. Reason it's important is this opening and closing portion of the canopy, this cross piece or front brace right there, that has quite a bit of flex built in. So if you had this off the aircraft, stuck that in place, used magnets, and had it sitting back like that as an example, that's how easy it slides back, then this gap is never going to be closed. So you want to make sure that you're curing it in place. Super important. So first thing I'm going to do is go around and get this guy marked out with Sharpie. Now, our bend is starting about here, so we'll mark that out at the bottom of the bend, but likely, again, this is going to come down even further, so we may have to cut some more off anyways, but we'll just mark it right there for our cut. So we're going just past the scale rivet detail on there for this piece. All right, so we're just going to do our back portion of the canopy first. And so what I've done here is we got this all nicely fit, pushed all the way up. It's all trimmed and everything. We've got our magnets holding it in place. The real nice thing about the magnets is your ability to move it. So right now, if we had this piece kind of jammed back a little bit and we take it over to the aircraft and we find that it doesn't fit so well, then it can still be adjusted. So this just makes sure that we've kind of got everything in the right spot. So like, yeah, we needed to kind of push down on the front there to kind of squish it a little bit. That is fitting very nicely. So what we'll do is we've got this form fit like this. Now we'll take it off and we will be using our Zap canopy glue, Formula 560. It reminds me of like old school glue, the white stuff that dries clear. That's basically what it is. Nice stuff, dries clear, cleans up with water. So all we do now is we just go along the inside. And what happens is as you run it on the inside here, it tends to wick itself underneath in between the glass or the clear part and the actual canopy itself. So you can see there, starts to wick itself in. So we'll just go around, run this all over the place. If we get any that comes out on the other side, we just clean it up with water and pop it on the plane and let it cure. All right, so we've got our canopy glue installed everywhere. You can see it's fairly ugly, but by tomorrow it'll be nice and clear and white, or clear, not white. On the outside, we're pretty much bang on everywhere. We've got a little bit of seepage coming through, but that will be invisible once it cures. So let's get this installed. So not overly complicated here, doing exactly what we just did. So we're just going to pop this guy underneath, drop it in place, just like that. And we can go one step further. We can slide our locks in place. We'll just manipulate those locks a little bit. There we go. There, so now our canopy is locked on the bottom. So it's sucked down as it's gonna be. We're nice and tight on our front gap. We've got a little bit of the glue leaking through, which is fine. It'll just drop in the fuselage, and that's it. So we'll leave this cure overnight, and tomorrow we can take all the magnets off, and then after that we'll do the exact same thing to our front canopy. Now our front canopy, we've got some cleanup to do here. That's why I didn't do the front canopy tonight. So we've got to get our vacuum out, Dremel out this area, because there's a whole bunch of glue built up here from the previous canopy. So if we put our glass in there right now, it's actually sticking about 1/4 inch down off of this face. So we'll come back to this tomorrow and get it wrapped up. So it's been 24 hours and our glue, our canopy glue, is nice and solid. Just gonna undo our locks here. Beautiful. So nice and solid. That is awesome. So very nice. So that always turns out really well. There's a little bit of wet areas still, you can see there, which is fine. So we can leave these magnets on for a while as well. We've got a whole bunch more to do the front section, so we'll just set this aside and leave it alone. No reason to rush that and pull the magnets off, so that's good. Now we're gonna work on our front section. So we'll take our Dremel. Fortunately, we got lots of room. We'll get our vacuum queued up and we'll just sand this guy out. We basically need to do this entire section right there. So we're gonna sand that out, get the front portion fit. All right, front canopy glass is glued in place. Now I did this one a little bit different. I used goop. Now the reason I used goop is there's a lot of force on this, this flat plate. We had some space to take up. Getting in these spots right here isn't exactly possible. I have to flip the fuselage upside down. So I pre-put goop on this flat area, placed the canopy glass in place, put all my magnets in there, and then we just went in and did the side pieces here. So I took some goop on my finger and just stuck it on the sides. So should be all good. Now the nice thing about goop again is when this is dry, we'll be able to come in here and peel this stuff off and it'll disappear, which is great. So front canopy glass is now in place. All right, so pretty simple to build a cradle because we've already got the template done here. So this is the cradle we did for the previous Skymaster A10. So we're just copying the same thing, took our center pieces, put them on there, trace them out. Now one of the things that I'm going to change here is the way that we support our aircraft. So this is okay, and I was thinking about putting some Velcro straps through the wing tube opening, one going forward, one going backwards. But when you look at the wing tube here, the wing tube is essentially a little bit narrower than the tail, pretty much the same width, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate what I wanted to do before, which was we're going to use the wing tube to support the aircraft. So when this is all said and done, we're going to take some wood, put some holes in that wood, figure out where it needs to go on the board, and most of the weight is actually going to be on this wing tube now instead of on the fuselage. So the wing tube is going to be sitting against wood. We'll still have some foam here, but the foam is just going to help support it. This is going to carry most of the weight. So that's going to be a good change. Obviously the width of the cradle is going to be quite a bit wider. Now we could get a smaller wing tube as well too, if you wanted to transport this with the tail off. So as an example, this wing tube is about 39 inches wide and our stand is 27 inches wide. So really it's not that much. Like there's 39 inches. So we've got like 6 inches per side. So really it's not that big of a deal. I would say it's not even worth getting another wing tube. If I was to get another wing tube, I'd probably get a carbon wing tube, use this one for transport, cut it down, and then just use the carbon one for flying. So anyways, that's our stand in progress. All right, so stand is now complete. You can see the wing tube holders there. That worked beautiful. Very happy with that. That's going to be a great solution for that stand. Also cut 2 pieces for the other stand that we copied. So that is a 2-inch hole saw that we used. So that's all marked out now. Obviously the plane's not going anywhere forward, backwards, and a lot of the pressure's on the wing tube now, which is wonderful. So much better solution. That worked out good. We are going to get the plane ready here. The owner is on his way and we'll get it bound to his radio, do all that stuff, test runs and everything. So I'll share a bit of that with you guys as well too. That's why we haven't put any of the items back in the aircraft. So like I talked about, Canopy's not back in. We want to get everything bound and set up and make sure we're 100% before we put the canopy back together. So anyways, that's what it looks like now. Popped all of our magnets off of our canopy glass, so that's all done. There's a little bit of cleanup of the goop. That just peels right off, super easy, but the actual canopy is nice and solid, so good solution for that as well too. All right, so we got the wings on. Because we didn't have the gear locked, the gear just drops right down, so now this one's locked. We'll probably drop the front one as well. And I think one of the Robart fittings on this side has a little valve on it. That's why this one doesn't drop down. But it is possible to get it down. So the mains are down. We'll drop the nose now. So we just had it taped up before so we could move it around and get the stand built. But I don't think it'll fit all the way, so there we go. All right, so we're gonna slide our fly right stand forward a little bit. That's the nice thing about the adjustability on this thing. So we'll slide it forward so the nose gear can hang off the end here, and then we'll have full control of the aircraft. So next thing we're gonna do is we're going to get the radio set up. Now this plane was previously set up on a G1 Jetty radio, and now we're going to take that previous program. It's on the G2 radio and it's going to be bound to the new radio. So that's why we've got all of our plugs in the front here like we installed. So this is where we're going to access everything, even though right now we do have access, but we will do everything through our plugs in the front because we want to obviously check and make sure that that all works as well. All right guys, so we got everything figured out here. We spent some time sorting out the radio. The radio was pretty much a bind and everything was good. The only thing is we had to do a little bit of massaging with the flaps. Now, if you followed this project from the very beginning, we originally put JR in here. At some point after that, we switched it over to Jetty, and it was one of the very first Jetty planes that I set up. So we have made some changes to make it more current, which is good. Everything is pretty much done. All of the flight surfaces and sub trims and all that, we just transferred right over. So everything's good. We've checked the gear as well too. I'll give you guys a shot of the landing gear here. And everything looks good. Everything's ready to fly. So we still have to do the CG on this plane, which we'll do.
11 minutes, 49 seconds.
But we've got our pressure here, so the compressor will turn on, but here is gear up. Now I have set the pressure a little bit higher on the A10. Reason for that is the landing gear all retracts forward, and in order for those locks to work on the mains, you really want to have that gear solidly up, not do any hard pulls as you take off and put the gear up. So that's why we've set it there, and now we'll do gear down. So when we do gear down, the front door opens, the doors, front door, and the locks are all on the same solenoid.
Gear down.
So gear down, door open, lock unlocks, gear comes down. All right, so our lights are working on the plane, and we set those up on this switch here. So when the switch is all the way forward, lights are off, lights are on. There's a mix, so when the gear is in the down position, it adds 10%. So the nose light is on. When you do gear up, the nose light turns off, but the rest of the lights stay working. So there's our belly beacon, top beacon. We've got our marker lights on the side, and then our flashers, and our back flasher is doing its thing as well. So we have a couple things left to do. Number one, we are going to put this plane on the ground, do the CG check. We've already got all of our numbers in our Chicoy scales, so we're just going to put the plane on the scales, get that finished, and then we get to test run the aircraft. All right, so we are ready to test run the A10. We have got things queued up here. I'll kind of explain how we do things. So we've got one battery for one turbine, another battery for another turbine. So what I did was unplugged one battery, tried to start up the turbine. There's an air bubble in the line, right? So we let the turbine go through its starting phase until it ignites, kind of ramps up to 60, 70 degrees, turned it off, switched the unplugged one battery, plugged in the other battery, did the same thing. So both of them now have fuel run to the engines, which is perfect. So now we are ready to start this up. And as the engines start to spool up, you'll see the turbo fans in the front start to spin as well. All right, so with test runs successful, the last thing we're gonna do is get all of our equipment bolted in place. So the Central Box 400 wasn't screwed down yet, and we'll go through and goop all of our connections and everything, but that is wonderful. She is got her facelift done, her liposection's complete, her lip injections and Botox in her forehead is done. What else did she have? Oh yeah, she had a tummy tuck, literally, and she's got a lot of makeup on. All right, and a couple final things that we did. We gooped all of our connectors inside. We got the turbine telemetry up and running, put the guy back in, cockpits all reinstalled as well. So we are officially done putting lipstick on the pig, sort of. I mean that in a positive way, by the way. So that's everything, guys, for the A10 spa treatment. Hopefully you enjoyed the details we went into. It's nice to have this plane back and be able to simplify it and update it and add some cool additions to it. So I know the owner is going to really enjoy flying this, and hopefully he has a good time and many successful landings. Thank you, channel members, for what you do. Thank you for being a channel member on the channel. If you're watching this and you're curious, what the heck is channel membership? Well, there's some links down below to channel membership. It is a paid thing, but our channel members get to see our videos early. So as an example, when this final video came out on YouTube, the channel members got to see it a week before. So thank you, channel members, and thank you everybody that, that supports the channel. We'll see you guys in the next video. I'm very excited to see everybody at Turbines and Tumbleweeds in Sweetwater, Texas, October 2nd to October 5th, 2025. See you there.